You're more than welcome to use this time to ask Amazing John any questions you have, and then what we can do is walk around and look and see some other areas, and feel free to take any photos. We just ask that you avoid the hot box.
Examine the tray and see how it all works. If you've got any questions, Sam over there, any technical questions, he can answer any questions you've got as to how the brakes work. Good and sophisticated, because you whiz past this thing in a matter of a few seconds. And I thought, well, we could develop this a bit further, so I built an animated figure of a country and western singer playing the guitar. And at that point in time, only Disney were doing sophisticated animated figures. And they were very secretive about how they worked, wouldn't let anybody know how they, and what's more, they cost a fortune. And this figure that I built, which was pneumatic, in actual fact, it's on the Disney pneumatic, was a fraction of the price. So it eventually found its way onto a television program that was very popular in the 70s and 80s, and after it was on Tomorrow's World, the phone never stopped ringing. And one of the phone calls was from a rather enigmatic company that wouldn't admit who they were. And they said, we can't tell you who we are, but we've done rather well for the last 200 years with static figures, and we're thinking of making them move. Would you be interested in working with us? And I said yes. So they came down and they saw the figure. And once they'd seen the figure, they admitted who they were. And it was Ian Hansen, who was head of Madame Tussauds Studios. And the entire board of Madame Tussauds, Michael Herbert, who was chief executive, all of Madame Tussauds, and they saw it. And I said, well, what are you interested? What's your interest? And they said, well, we've just signed the lease for a brand new exhibition in Windsor, opposite Windsor Castle, the Windsor Railway Station. And we're building an exhibition to celebrate Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. And we want to, the finale of the exhibition that people go through would be an animated show, Queen Victoria and Disraeli and also all moving. Would you be interested in making this work? So I said yes. So we did the show, and it was very successful. And I was at a meeting in Madame Tussauds, and a guy called Graham Jackson, who was responsible for all the non-wax exhibitions, which consisted of Warwick Castle, Woking Hole Caves, and Chessington Zoo. And he said to me, I've heard you built some rides for amusement parks. Would you go to Chessington to sort out the fun fair in the circus? So I came up one day, and what I saw was very nice at the zoo, and there was a traditional little fun fair, a dodgem, and a waltzer, and a helter-skelter, and a ghost train, and then there was a nice little circus, fine, but all rather ordinary and nothing that people couldn't see to their local village green. So I thought, I don't think the fortunes of Chessington Zoo could be turned around just by replacing a few traditional amusement rides with something a bit bigger and better. And Pearson, who were Madame Tussauds, who were in Chessington, was saying, either this, you've got to turn the fortunes of Chessington Zoo around. It's losing money, and if you don't sort it out, we're going to sell the land or develop, the housing development. Close the park, close the zoo, sell it to them. So sort it out before we sell it. So I wrote them a letter after I'd been here saying, I don't think the answer really is just sorting out the fun fair and the circus. You need a much bigger, grander scheme. And Graham Jackson, bless his cotton socks, more or less wrote back to me saying, thank you very much, you don't call us, we call you. And that I thought was the end of the matter. But then Graham retired. The following year, a guy called Ray Barrett contacted me and said, I'm the new director responsible for one of the sorts of non-wax attractions. I found this letter in the filing cabinet from them, and reading between the lines, I think you might have some ideas. And it's jumping onto the storage track, because there's a transfer track there, so the train will be brought in, the track will slide across, and it will go onto the transfer track, and then it joined the main circuit with a tumble track, which we'll show you in a minute, which got it back on the pole. But since the Vekoma trains were put on, that transfer track was abandoned. And now the way the trains have gone off the track is they're brought into the station, tumble track turns over, and the train is then winched back into the workshop, and the workshop is through there, where they've got all the machinery to maintain it. So, you'll get a nice photograph if you go back out there and photograph in. That's curious.
Earlier, there's always something very small this time, unfortunately. This is a side wheel spring off the train. Very small. Not as good as a wheel on a pickup dog, but I'll give it away to the first person. I'm going to start on there and go round. Tell me, hopefully you've not bumped into the other two groups because the answer's the same. How many are there on one train? Have a quick guess. Number between whatever you like.
30.
40.
72.
48.
84.
52. 24.
Yeah, I was trying to think in terms of the rows.
No, unfortunately not, but someone did get it right. So someone's either talked to the other groups or knows. So the answer is actually 52.
Hey!
And the reason there's 52, there's 13 wheels on the train, there's 2 springs in each wheel. So a couple of facts about the Vampire while you're here. You've been somewhere else at the moment, you know a lot about it, you probably know more about it than me, and I've been here 27.5 years. There's always someone that knows a little bit more. I'm not so enthusiastic about certain things. But we'll go for a couple of things. So the track is aerodynamics. Above your head there are 3 black items, the brakes. They're made by Vekoma. It's our first year of using Vekoma brakes. Vekoma make exactly identical brakes that fit with our riders as much as they fit on their coasters as well. In the station you may have noticed they were brown. If you went in the trim station you would have noticed some were brown, some were black. We are slowly changing to the Vekoma brakes. They're just newer, work exactly the same principle. Everything part is the same, but these are easier to maintain. We don't have to send them away to service them, we can do them ourselves in-house by changing the liners with nuts and bolts. The others before were riveted. So at the top there's 3 air receivers. Someone else in the other teams noticed, why is the 4th one not got a receiver on there? Why is there a brake spare underneath? The original Arrow trains were heavier, they were shorter but heavier, so Arrow had 4 sets of brakes here. When Vekoma done the transition to where we are now, they only needed the 3. The trains are lighter, so they come in a little bit slower. We didn't need the 4th brake, so it was removed, and that's why we've only got 3. And on the end of the left-hand side of each unit, there's a little brass unit, that's a non-return valve. And the reason we have a receiver there is just so if anything goes wrong with the air, with local air, to make sure the brakes stay closed. The brakes are only open when there's a train there. They will not open at any other point, and we cannot force them to open if there's no train. The control system says the train can only come into a closed brake. So when you're riding, you sometimes hear it scrape. That is because the brakes are closed. The brake fin is going through the liners to slow the train down. The friction will slow it down. Once the train gets to a certain point of the track, either it stops dead or it's still moving because it's a nice warm day, it's still got the momentum, it flags that sensor, it says open the brakes, let the train transition further forward, then it'll engage on the sensor, will start the chain, the train will slowly glide in, engage, and once the train is engaged it will speed up the chain and take you up and over the lift. On the armature and 240 volts on the field. If you're into motors, it might be quite interesting, but these are DC. Very unusual now to use DC motors. Everything else on most of the lure rides is AC. You can get just as much torque out of an AC as the way we do it on this one. Certain sensors you can see, the sensors are always left on. We don't turn the ride off at night. The reason we leave it on everything stays warm. Moisture at night, don't want to draw it in as it's cooling down, even though they're IP rated. Keep everything on, lasts a lot longer. You don't turn electrically on and off all the time. So as you go up the lift as well, you'll notice anti-rollbacks. How many anti-rollbacks do you think there are on lift 2? No.
50.
Right. 41. And there's 31 on lift 1. And also behind you over there, there's 2 on the track. They are actually up at the moment. We only use those and put them down for testing. So when we've done our winter maintenance, just because the train has now been put back together, things are brand new, they may not be spinning as fast, we will put those down so if the train comes in slowly, it doesn't roll backwards into the field over there. And on the lift at the top over, behind the lift, you've got the 2 there on the exit of the tunnel. They are up as well. We will only lower those during our test period after the winter maintenance has happened. Again, we don't want it to stop in the tunnel because it's more difficult to recover. But we put them up because we don't want it to get stuck up there with guests on. That would be a disaster, trying to get people from there out. And it has never happened. We've never had a rollback on this ride with guests on the train. Yes, we're not going live, we've seen it, people know on social media, it has happened, it's rolled in the tunnel during testing, and we recover it. And that's why there's a winch over there. The yellow ice over there, the winch is bolted to the floor, and there was one with the arrow system as well. The winch was in here for all the years back then. We have a new rope system to the wire, but it's the same thing, so if the train gets stuck anywhere, how are you going to get it? You're going to have to pull it. Same in the station, did they explain how we take the trains on and off? We use winches. It's an older ride, we haven't got booster motors on this like all the newer coasters. So when we want to take our trains off, we will winch them back slowly. And then when we want to put them back on, no winch, just release the brakes and they will slowly come back into the station. So yes, it's an older ride, so things are older systems as well from company. On other coasters, when they get stuck, you have to get a crane or something like that to take on repair. We can virtually get them all the way back with those winches. Very, very frequent, mainly after testing. So as you go around, look at the track as well, especially the tunnel. You can see this is an arrow track. The backbones are slightly different. Some are wider here, and as you go in the tunnel, they're slightly narrower. It's still made by Arrow, just different track because partly replaced at different times. In the little shed, I've turned it off now, luckily it's not so noisy. The air system over here is run by the compressor at this location. The station is an independent compressor as well. Would it have been easier to have one compressor run the whole lot? Made no difference. It's easy here. If we have a compressor fault, we'll just put a new compressor in. And the compressor here does them 3 brakes and the airbag at the top. You can't really see it, but there's an airbag up there and it expands. It's on the arm, and on the top you've got a sprocket that tensions the chain. So as the train comes in, sometimes you might hear it like clank, bang, and it's just taking up the slack of the train as it comes in. It's always under tension, and then the train will go up the lift as well. Any other questions?
Is anyone else expecting to climb up there? Or I just made that up? Yeah, I thought we might go up.
Okay,
Probably too dangerous.
so has anyone got photo epilepsy before we start? I've just got to double check. Everyone's all good, yeah?
Yep.
We're going to do a tester just to show you how bright it is. When you're doing the photo, you got to look at this camera here. Do not look up there. Otherwise you won't be able to see for the rest of the day, or the rest of the evening.
When we test it out, please don't look directly into
Yeah, so you'll see
flash.
kind of how bright, just so you're used to it, if you want to give it a go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Go right.
So we're going to take it in your groups. If you want to do it in your groups, come down here, we'll take a photo each.
A great idea.
So right here.
A ride photo.
Right. Honestly, one experience.
Brilliant.
So yeah, look at that one. Ready?
Ready? Oh, okay.
3, 2, 1.
It's going to take a whole train's worth every time, isn't it?
Can't say now.
They told you where to look.
Oh, I can show you this as well. If you stand like right up next to the rocks,
You see the
just
laser.
shining directly at me. There's a little white. Let me get a torch. There's a little white piece of tape.
There you go.
A little red dot. That's the laser. When that gets broken, it gets set off. If you guys just want to go a bit more down
Yeah, if you can
there,
head down there.
wait there.
Um,
Just wait, there's big rocks.
So that's why
Leave it going back down.
Next group.
hit the centre.
Just the one.
Yes,
So, yeah, just that camera there.
Yeah, not the one up above.
Not
Yeah.
the one there. So if you stand around on this bit here,
Yeah.
she'll get you in there. There you go, that one.
Right, I'm not looking.
Right, 3,
Yeah.
2, 1.
I'm still blinded even when you don't look.
Yeah, same.
Oh, fucking hell.
Right, next one, let's come down.
Look into the light.
Don't look into the lights.
So yeah, just here. So if you like to stand back here,
I can stand there.
yeah, on this bit here. See that camera there?
Did you notice some copper tube in a funny shape with some black netting on it? Not me, I don't
No.
think anyone has actually, but it is there. It's on the left-hand side as you walk out towards the road. So that little piece of, well, quite big actually, piece of copper pipe, we made it from a drawing from Vekoma, and we put it all together, and we had to push it around the track all the way around to make sure the free space envelope was totally clear. So obviously some other people have pointed out that some of the columns have got cutouts.
Yeah.
And they were because the free space envelope was too close to that column, so Vekoma cut them out and reinforced the back part as well. And also this part of the concrete. These are the original concrete plinths, and they had to be slightly cut back down because the Arrow trains were higher and the Vekoma trains would have just smashed into the bottom. The guide would have hit them. So we had to make sure, and there's a good clearance, it's not like this. There's still about 4 or 5 inches clearance minimum. And then further around the track, everything had to be pushed around. We had to make sure it was clear every single position. Anywhere it breached had to be resolved. So sometimes you can see where the mud's been cut away in the banks as you come back into the station as well. So also looking at the track, the backbone is slightly different there to there. Still Arrow track, this was part of the original track, this was part of the track that was replaced earlier on in its life as well. And again, where the 2 bolts are, Vekoma made a slight modification because the train's again slightly different, Vekoma to Arrow, and there must have been a problem there that the wheel maybe could have impacted it, or it was very, very close, and it was made a decision, and also the track profile slightly changed, and they welded it and bolted it back together. Quite a common practice, we have it at a few other places around the ride as well. So yes, this is the fastest part of the ride. When the train gets towards the corner there, it starts to kick out, best element of the ride, but then it starts to slow down, and then it will pick up speed as it comes back into the trim station. They're the 2 fastest parts. About 45 miles an hour it hits along this little perk here. And it can go a little bit faster in the summer and a little bit slower in the winter, depends on the temperature.
How do you guys maintain like the trees that you've got out? Like these big
Landscape
how do you...
have all the kit they need to cut the trees as well where possible. So in the morning when we do our walk around, if we think a train is going to impact or hit a tree, and it's only going to be the branches as they grow in the summer, the landscape department will come and trim them back for us. The staff will ride it every morning just to make sure everything is clear as well. But when we do our walk around, we think, oh, that tree's starting to grow, we'll notify them and they'll come and trim it back as well. Cool.